everyone, and I want to thank you for tuning in on this beautiful Friday, wherever you are and whenever you're listening to it. I want to welcome you to the third take, and I am your host, John Chapman III. Now, to give you a brief recap for those who didn't watch the episode before this, I basically talked about who I am and what this podcast is going to be about, and I gave you a little spill into like little demographics of who I am. To do some housekeeping around for the podcast, I want to make a major announcement that there will be no wrestling coverage for this podcast. I want to focus more on mental health and relationship advice because those are the most important things and one of the main reason why I made this podcast to begin with. And I don't want to do a disservice to you guys of me telling you, hey, I'm talking about relationship advice or mental health tips, but this week we're going to talk about wrestling only. So that would be a disservice to you guys, and I don't want to be a horrible host to you guys, as they would say. But if the demand gets high enough, I am thinking about making another podcast in the future, like not like next week or something like that, but like as this grows, I would be thinking about making a branch from this podcast, and it would be like wrestling, straight wrestling coverage and content. But like I said, if the demand is high enough for that, then I'll see to it because I don't want to overwhelm myself as a podcaster and also a full-time student and a full-time worker. So gotta think about that's one of the main tips that I will tell you today is to invest in yourself, but also, it's okay to have hobbies. um so as you guys have seen, the title of this episode is called John's Mental Health Journey. Ooh, what does that mean? So today I'm basically going to be telling you what I've been through, what I've learned, and how you guys can kind of um, get an insider of my mental health journey, and maybe my story might actually help someone else in a similar predicament as I had. I'm not going to tell you right now, I'm not fully, mentally sound, and I don't need to talk about, and I don't need a journey because I would be remiss if I said that my journey has like came to a close, and your mental health journey is always an ongoing thing. It just matters on how do you take it. You can take it slow at your own pace, or you can be one of those that speeds into it. And hey, different stuff works for different people. So I'm not the, licensed medical professional, but I'm just a person who's just studying this stuff. You know what I'm saying? I basically, like I said, I just want this story to kind of um inspire people to kind of reflect on their own mental health and also their journey as well. I think it's very important for us to actually reflect on ourselves and reflect what's going on around us and like create that self-awareness of it's okay to be not okay. You know what I'm saying? I think I think first admitting that you're not okay is a really big step because a lot of people struggle at that first step of just admitting like, hey, I'm not okay, I need to talk to somebody. And what I would say with that is until I'm licensed, you know what I'm saying, I would have plugged myself, but I'm not the licensed professional. I would seek to try to find some type of mental health advocate, or actually, scratch that. I would try to find a mental health licensed therapist. But I understand therapy can be super expensive, and trust me, I'll talk about that as I talk about my own mental health journey. But the main thing I would say further for people who may not be able to is to just find a friend or find a family member, find somebody who you can trust and just, you know, tell them about what's going on, because that's the first big step of actually telling somebody else rather than just holding it to yourself, because the more that you hold on to it, the more it's going to bottle up, and then once you actually do say something, it's going to sound like the world is ending to that other person, because that person is going to care about you. If you trust them to that point, they should care about you, and quotations should care about you. But no, I'm just playing. If you basically tell somebody that you trust more, I promise you, more times than others, they will actually help you out. I mean, we're all human. We all go through stuff, and we all are going through ongoing stuff. But enough with this long intro. It's like a dashy video. Let me get into the nitty gritty of what we're going to actually talk about today. So, like I said, today is going to be about my mental health journey. So, at first, let me give you guys like a little timeline of where this journey started and where it's kind of at right now. So, this all probably around started maybe around my sophomore year of high school. Um, During this time, I had moved from Illinois to Georgia, and I was in a totally like different state, like, the normal different state, different environment, different people. And that can be kind of scary sometimes. And it was definitely scary for me because I'm one of those people where I'm shy at first, but once I, get out of my comfort zone and actually interact with people, I start to like open up a lot more. And sometimes it gets to the point where I just like become a complete goofball. But that comes with personality. So anyways, around this time, I'm starting a new school, and like the first like day I kind of go and I'm just like, okay, let me get a feel of how class is and how the school is. First day went okay. Um, it wasn't nothing really too out of the ordinary. But as school would go on, I would showcase my skill of being a Michael Jackson tribute artist. And I literally performed on a Friday where basically, so the school basically had like something like a live music Friday, and I would perform like a Michael Jackson song. I think I performed Billie Jean for for like a little concert, and like the whole school went crazy. And like I'm not one to like toot my own horn, but I'm being so serious. It really did go crazy. And that was like kind of my first introduction to people. And part of that to me was good, but another part of that, I didn't know it would be kinda of a downfall. Well, not much of a downfall, but it would be more of a hindrance, as my high school academic career kinda went on from there. So, after that day, I was, well, I guess what kids call popular. And I had a lot of people like really reaching out to me, like, hey, good job. Oh, why did you learn how to do that? How did you do that? Like, the normal. Um, and from that, it actually, I ended up having like this identity at my high school where I was like literally a Michael Jackson. Like, my name was not John to people unless like I was presenting and like actually not like presenting Michael Jackson. I was actually presenting like statistics or a PowerPoint slide. And that kind of was kind of cool at first because like I was like, wow, these guys or these people are actually calling me, Michael Jackson, the guy that I'm trying to actually be. But like I was basically living as somebody else when I'm really supposed to be living as a me, if that kind of makes sense. So like my dancing kind of became my identity to people. And in a sense, as that became more of an identity, it became more an identity to me. And I kind of lost track of who I was as John versus who I am as John the performer. And I'm not gonna lie, as friendships and relationships kind of went and came and went, it was definitely eye opening to like really remember that most of my relationship that I had in high school was because of my dancing. And it was mainly because of that, what do they call that? Clout. I don't know. Do people even still use the word clout? That's a crazy word to even call because like it sounds so similar to cloud, but you know what? It's all right. Um so I basically had a lot of problems when it came to that standpoint because of my dancing and because I was known so well as a dancer, and I kind of had a little bit of my own identity. I was a part of a band. Well, okay, when I say band, I'm not talking about like strings and the band like marching band. I was part of a like in school band that would perform, and I was a percussionist. I basically played the cajon, which is like a drum, but it's like a box drum. So I like sit on it and I play it. Um, and that was kind of my That was kind of just me being me. It wasn't anything tied to Michael Jackson or nothing like that, but that was like my little escape from everybody else in the band called me like by my name. Everybody knew as me, but not as, Michael Jackson. Um, so fast forward through college, I'm sorry, fast forward through high school, there's a bit of ups and downs and ups and downs. I kind of have a little bit of a I have a little bit of a issue when it came to actually making new friends and actually like keeping them because they actually liked John and they didn't like, not just Michael Jackson. But trust me, there were definitely those friends who actually did like me for Michael Jackson, and it still just tickles me to this day that was actually a thing. But anyways, past high school, I'm now in college. Now this is where the root of my mental health journey really came from. Um, First, I went to a beautiful college called Xavier University of Louisiana in New Orleans. And I will never say anything horrible about that school because that school made me who I am today. And that is a fact. It's put a stamp on it, everything. But with that, didn't I? It's not, hold on. But with that, it's not anything to say that I did not have any roadblocks because I definitely did. I did have a lot of um, self learning that I had to do. And I basically went through a whole mental health journey in college. So to give you guys a little bit of a timeline or basis, basically I went to college. We were there for maybe about like 2 weeks, and then I had to actually leave because of Hurricane Ida. Woohoo! Came back and my room and everything was just messed up, and like literally, like my dad and I literally had to go and wash all of my clothes, and it was like we had to even throw away some because it was just like they were just too far gone, and I lost a lot of like, not a lot, I'm over exaggerating, but I did lose a fair amount of like memorabilia that I had. Like I had this title and it was like completely in ruins because of like all the mold and the water um that was on it, and I was like just so hurt. I was just like, man, it was one of my favorite titles too. But we move on. um, Basically after that, once we actually were able to be on campus a lot, um, oh my god, I totally just literally forgot that literally like the first night that I lived on campus, I basically went out and performed. I literally like just grabbed my speaker. I just went outside and like I went to a pretty well populated area, and I basically just sat my speaker down and I just started dancing like nobody was even watching. I'm not gonna lie, I did bring a little crowd with me. I brought like maybe like 2 or 3 people, and then like I was hoping like, some people would come up and actually enjoy the dancing, and I ended up having like the whole block or like the whole campus just on turn up season because of that, but I'll get into that later. Oh my god, it's so funny. So basically I performed Billie Jean, I performed Beat It, and I think I performed The Way You Make Me Feel. And as I was performing, it was just like, I don't know how to explain this feeling like to somebody that wouldn't really know from a performer's standpoint, but for me, it was like an out of body experience. That's the best that I can give you. It's like that's an out of body experience when you're performing and you actually are hearing like people cheering you on and people actually liking what you're doing. And for that night, I will never ever forget that night. Like literally, I like my mind just like reminded me like, hey, remember the first night you were out there, you danced, and I was like, oh wait, yeah, let me tell. But anyway, that's me breaking the fourth wall. This is what this podcast is about, breaking fourth walls. So basically, after that, after we came back, my identity again was just Michael Jackson. People knew me around campus. If they didn't know me as John, they knew me as Michael Jackson. But then it wasn't until maybe around my senior year, or no, actually, I take that back. It wasn't around until like my junior year that people actually saw the John part and not just the Michael Jackson part, because I did ended up taking a break because I was um in a relationship with somebody who was basically with me for the Michael Jackson clout. And once I was like, that's not it. That's not all to me. I'm not just Michael Jackson 24/7. They kind of was like, oh well, I can get somebody else. And you know, that's another story for another day. That's for like the relationship advice or the relationship episode, but I ain't gonna get into it. Um, it's just a little rant. But anyways, that when that started to kick in, I saw that in myself, and I ended up taking a break from dancing. I was just like, I'm packing all of my stuff up. It's gonna go in my closet, or it's gonna go somewhere where I can't see it, because it was becoming this thing where I was like, I didn't want a repeat of high school. I wanted people to actually see me as who I was. The only problem is I am actually really introverted. Believe it or not, everybody always is like, how? I am very introverted. Um, it really became to a point where I would like self isolate sometimes, and I will always say that's not good for you on a college campus, especially a HBCU college campus. Like, you're literally, I'm not gonna say you're forced to, but it is definitely beneficial to actually get out and meet people. As horrifying and as easier said than done as that is, once you actually take that initial step of just meeting people, and that doesn't have to necessarily mean going to a event or like going out where a lot of people are public, or where a lot of people are populated. You can literally just go downstairs to your in your dorm resident hall and just literally just hang around and just like, be, because the best thing I will say about the mics is that even if we didn't know each other, we would at least respectfully say hello, or we would at least say, be like, hey, you want to come over here and play ping pong, or hey, you want to watch us play ping pong. And man, them days I will never forget, because those were some fun days when we had a ping pong table. I feel bad for the freshmen there who don't have a ping pong table, but y'all got a pool table, so I guess that'll do. um but like I said, back to the mental health journey. So once I actually stopped performing and people started seeing me, I actually started feeling a lot better. Um, I was trying to find a balance in terms of school, and also find a balance in terms of whatever hobbies I want to do. But granted, one of the main hobbies that I wanted to do was dancing, and my other hobby was really gaming or drawing, which doesn't really involve people. And I'm that type of person that's like a big party person, and I that is literally a horrible. I understand those who think that is a horrible thing when it comes to being in New Orleans, but hey, A's, the parties don't get you straight A's, and they don't get you out of college. That's what I'll say. Education for me always came first, and I stuck by that, and I kind of regret not partying as much as I should have, or at least partying and like actually taking academic breaks. But in the long run, I wouldn't be where I am right now if I didn't party and put myself in more in tune with my books. But when it came to that, I was also in a relationship at the time where we were kind of on and off a lot. Not going to say any names because that would be horrible, and I'm never going to put anybody on blast, nor would I want anybody to put me on blast. Um, but I was in a relationship, and and it wasn't toxic, because I'm not gonna say like, oh, the whole relationship is toxic, or oh my god, this person is a horrible person. It just became toxic at times because of our own doing. And part of that was me not knowing who I was individually in the relationship. I kind of had this identity of, okay, this is my I'm done with Michael Jackson, so now I got to figure out who I am. But I'm in a relationship, so it's like I'm who I am for that relationship, and that is not, and that created codependency, which is not, which didn't work for the relationship that I was in. that codependency ended up making us butt heads a lot, and we ended up having a lot of not fun nights over the phone about literally the status of our relationship. And like I said, it was a both of us type of issue. I'm never going to say it was 100% the other person or it was 100% me because it was not 100% me all the time. Uh, but um, it was because I just didn't know who I was except for that relationship that it became um known, and it became like kind of toxic for the relationship, along with other things. So during that time, I was just trying to just learn who I was, and I was like using the campus counseling sessions. But even with that, you're a little limited because even though you get 12 sessions, I think per year, but you can also, but that basically means in a semester, that means six um sessions per semester, and that's literally just six like times. That's within like 6 weeks. Um, and like you would probably need to be referred to an actual therapist, but at the time, money was not the best around that time because I am a college student, and I didn't want to put that burden on my parents to kind of find me a therapist, because I felt like I could actually handle it on my own. Um, and in a sense, I could. In a sense, I could, but I'll talk about that part when I was about to crash out, um, a little bit later on. But at that point, I had been talking to therapy, and it kind of worked. The school counseling sessions did help. It at least put me in a direction. I'm never gonna say that it was horrible or like it didn't do anything, but it did it didn't do what I wanted it to do because I'm that type of person where like when it comes to therapy, I feel like it should be something that should be kind of, more than just 6 weeks. But campus resources are limited, which is understandable. Um, but like I said, and I didn't really I made friends. I had my own little group, but again, this was the little selfish part of me and I guess what people call the guy thing in me to not tell my friends that I was actually going through something. Even though they all could kind of like tell like, "Hey, are you okay?" And I just be like, "Yep," and I just put on a face and keep smiling. And it would just be like I would add another face to it, which I will let you know it's not healthy at all. It's not healthy to put on a face. Try to be as genuine as you can because we're humans. We can see through that type of stuff. And if somebody really asks if you're okay, and they're really asking you, "Were you okay?" kind of tell them you're not okay because it's okay to not be okay. Remember, that's going to be the tagline for this episode. Watch, it's okay to not be okay. Um, and because like healing takes time, so it's not going to happen overnight. But at least if you have that process and you have the capability and the passion to actually keep going, then you can actually get somewhere in the long run. I promise you that. Um but at that time, I was trying to find myself, and in therapy, it kind of helped me kind of discover more of my passions of drawing and gaming. But then those passions kind of became a little bit of a deterrence, because that was kind of affecting my academic career, and that's hence why I stopped really partying or stopped really doing my social activity because I kind of disciplined myself where if I'm not doing well, I don't deserve to, you know, these type of luxuries of playing a game or going out with friends. Um, it would be just I would be at my desk literally studying or trying to know as much as I can, and trying to stay ahead a week before, and it was just not healthy at all. And it ended up actually giving me burnout. So other than that, it was a lot of therapy and just kind of self-reflection and finding that type of balance. And once I actually got that balance, in my junior year, I actually was able to start um, journaling, and journaling really saved me a lot because journaling gave me an outlet to speak. If I didn't feel like speaking to people, I at least spoke it in my journal, and I would make myself read it like the day after. I would never just write and then just read. I would write let me kind of rest and let me come back to it later on. But in finding myself, I basically had to learn that like who am I? That's why the title of last episode was kind of who am I? Because it was kind of me reaffirming what I've learned in my mental health journey is to actually talk about who I am first. Um Once I've kind of figured out who am I versus Michael Jackson, I was like, okay, I have this balance. And it didn't really come until maybe my senior, like early, like, okay, actually take that back. It wasn't until my late junior year, early senior year that I had this one therapist that actually helped me a lot. And she really put me together in terms of our meetings and her actually being straight up with me. And not to shade on any of the counselors at Xavier, but it was just their level was, "Okay, let's see how we can get you okay," and, like, kinda tell you what you need to hear a little bit, but they'll tell you more of what you already thinking and what you wanna hear. It was more of a venting type of, therapy than rather, like, telling you who you are and telling you what you're doing rather than, what this therapist did. She basically, like, sat me down and she was like, "John, you have the potential of actually like finding yourself. You just are struggling to find yourself because you're not taking the proper techniques." And like when I say that, I'm not meaning that there are like tips and like simple, ABC how to do this, but I'm not forcing myself to kind of get out of my own comfort zone and actually try to find those. So she basically said with journaling, you need to start doing some type of gratitude. And that's why I've always um, been so grateful just for even just the little things. And she also told me to start investing in myself. And I'm the type of person where um, whenever somebody was telling me about their mental health struggles and they'd come to me, and it was never a bad thing because I always appreciated that somebody, trusted me enough. But whenever somebody would, I would kind of stay, I would go in the foxhole with them, but then I'd stay there after I get them out. And then I would just stay in that foxhole until they needed me for another foxhole, or not even just that person, but another person would need me for a foxhole type of conversation. And I'd get out and talk to them. Which like again, I'm not opposed to actually helping out people because I that's what I'll be doing later on. It was just with the stuff that I had going on, I thought I could actually be the best version of who I am. And I probably gave some pretty good advice and I probably gave some advice that I should have been taking. Um, but that's the main thing of I didn't take my own advice. Um, and once I actually started taking my own advice, I saw the changes. She would make me write down a piece of paper, um, like at the top of the paper, I was supposed to write things that I can control, and on the bottom, I was supposed to write things that I can't control and draw a line in the middle. And once I get done drawing them, to rip that paper in half and throw away the part that I can't control and focus on the ones that I can control. And I always tell people that because that actually was like the start my recovery for my mental health journey. It gave me my roadmap, and I actually was able to write it down for myself. And once I started investing in myself and actually taking care of myself, not only like materialistic stuff, but like mentally, and actually being like, okay, this is going to be a me day. I'm going to take a me day after class, a me day, or after the exam, treat myself no matter what I got on that exam because it was a fact that I knew I studied and I knew that um, whatever score I got, I was putting that up with God. But thank God that they were asking some really good scores. So I'm never gonna be not grateful for that. Um, Once I actually started doing that and started to talk to people that I could trust, like, family and all that whatnot, it just gave me different perspectives on it. Because, your, especially like your number one main support system, my parents were very helpful in giving me insight in terms of from their own experiences. that they've had, and for that, it was giving me another perspective and another set of eyes on what I was going through. Um, and also with the therapist, she basically gave me that non-biased perspective, which there's nothing wrong with using your parents, but using that outside um professional that's only know you based off what you tell them. She was basically able to sit me down and was like, John, you're overthinking your own mental health journey. You're making it more of a chore rather than something that you just should start doing as you're going through it. And what I'll always tell people is not to feel like your mental health journey is like something that you have to like label. I label that now because I went through mine and I was able to I'm able to distinguish like better for myself of when I'm actually going through a mental health journey versus when I'm actually going through it. Because when you're going through it, you're just going through it. I'm not gonna lie with you. You're just going through it. And me, I was going through it. Um, it was just the challenges of trying to find myself um was the main like struggle for me. And once I started to learn who I was, I felt a lot better. And literally to the point where she was like, "Yeah, you are good, and like you've got the tools." And one thing she always told me is that to always love in yourself and always to trust in yourself that you know what's best for you versus, you know, anything that she would tell me. She was like, I'm just here to to guide you, but it's up to you. You have to be the one to actually want to do this, and you have to be the one to actually figure this stuff out on your own. I'm just going to give you templates. I'm going to give you what works from a, you know, a therapist perspective. So with that, towards my junior year, I was a part of this organization called Men of Xavier. And that definitely gave me the opportunity to actually find myself and learn who I am when it comes to who am I as friend, colleague, you know, a fellow brother. I was basically able to learn and show people who is John. And my role was that of co-chair, and I would basically create you know, mental health panels. I'd have discussion talks. I'd have you know, knock on the door type of thing at freshman dorm where you basically knock on the door and ask people how they doing. Just that type of stuff. And that stuff actually like built into me like not only just leadership, but it built into me like this is who I am because I get the most fulfillment out of this. And that's kind of what I learned about my own heart is that I have the heart for people. Hence why I'm making this podcast so that people can kind of um know that they're not alone in their own mental health journey because it's a journey that everybody goes through and most people go through it and they don't even know it. um but it's just not as prominent as for others. But for me it was I'm doing therapy finally because I'm about to crash out. um and once I did, it did indeed help put me on a guide map, and she spoke to me from a humane perspective. And that's what I strive and I hope that I can carry to not only with this podcast, but when I get my own credentials, that I can actually talk to people from a human standpoint rather than, you know, giving you therapy advice from whatever a book told me to do or whatever past theories, because everybody is different and times are different than what the actual theorist was around. Like look at like Sigmund Freud. We look bad at his stuff because times have changed, but for his time that was like the foundations of when it came to development. um but you know, like I said, times change. um After that, with men of Xavier, that's when I took a very hard look in the mirror and was like, who am I? And I started to actually listen to affirmations. Every morning I made myself listen to affirmations. This is one affirmation video that was for black men. Um, and I would listen to it in the morning when I wake up, like while I'm getting ready for school, and then I listen to it like before I lay down and go to bed, so I can, give myself affirmations. And then it came to the point that after that, I was able to actually look myself in the mirror, and that was already a battle in itself because I'm number one super self conscious about my own looks. And I've learned to actually love myself because we are beautiful. It's not even just always about the outside, it's about the inside that counts even more because the inside is what reflects on the outside. And basically, once I started doing at least 3 affirmations for myself, I was able to actually start to love myself, and that was my biggest struggle was actually loving myself. And once I started to love myself, I started to love the things that I did. In terms of Men Xavier, like, even from being in the Super Bowl or, getting to see The Rock in person in terms of wrestling, the stuff that I did with Men Xavier overlapped almost like anything that I've ever done because it was the more satisfaction for me that I actually made a difference for that organization, and I made a difference in, like, at least one person's life, you know what I'm saying? I made people start to reflect their own mental health searching in within themselves because as men, it's hard for us to actually be vulnerable and be open enough to actually just start our own journey ourselves because we're always conditioned to be you got to be the tough guy. You got to be you can't have feelings. You can't show emotion. You're supposed to be this this strong man that's unbreakable when in in reality it really breaks us down because that's such a high standard that we have to live to. And that doesn't happen just with men, that happens with women too. Women have their own struggles to worry about, but that's for what episodes with my girlfriend that we're going to be talking about later on. Hint, hint. Um, but even with that, um, that really overshadowed anything that I've really done in my collegiate experience because those are the days and those are the nights, those hard planning, the execution, um the nervousness of actually talking to other guys that I will never feel those same emotions like being in the Super Bowl or going to a wrestling show. Because I'm the one that's actually supposed to be carrying that and making that reaction. And but don't get me wrong though, that Super Bowl, that's high. That's high. And that's gonna be its own episode, maybe. I don't know. Maybe I'll get deep and dive into it, maybe. If the demands um high enough, maybe I'll make an episode just dedicated to my Super Bowl experience. Um Actually, you know what? Future John, how about you write that down? Maybe I'll write that down later. And I'm so keeping this in. Um, I'm breaking the fourth wall right in front of y'all, and I do not regret it at all. Um, but once I actually started to learn more about myself, um, I was able to see a lot of things clearly. And then even when it came to the point, um, I would say about 2 weeks before I was about to graduate. This is this might be traumatizing from my family that may be listening to this. 2 weeks before I was about to graduate, I was actually, um, given an email from my school saying, "Hey, we see that you are missing a requirement, and you need to talk to your academic advisor about that because you are not en route to graduate." Now, I just wanted you to take a minute and think how did you think that made me feel? I've been working due diligently ever since my freshman year, and sophomore year, working for well, mainly from sophomore year because freshman year was such a breeze, but sophomore year up to senior year and getting myself to to that level of graduating to be just told like, "Hey, there's something that you didn't do that you were supposed to do, but now you're not going to graduate, so you're not going to walk." Granted, that's 2 weeks before the actual day of my graduation. So take this into consideration. I had family coming, I had stuff already planned out, I had an outfit ready to go, I had everything that a graduate should have had at that time. I even went to all the assemblies, got tickets, and everything. But once that email came, it felt like somebody had literally shot me in my heart because it was just, nah, this got to be a horrible dream or something. And I wished it was. But to my own demise, I was saying a lot of the time of that I didn't feel like I was graduating. And God will play so many games with you that he put me through a wind up of emotions when that happened. So when that happened, I immediately emailed my academic advisor and I was like, what is going on? What's happening? And we literally would talk that next day. And I went to his office the next day, was like, what happened? How did I not know it? Because granted, this was something that I was not aware of. I'm gonna put that um as a thing for you guys to keep in mind. I was not aware that this was a requirement that I needed because I was told that when I registered for the semester for my last semester that I all I had to do was just take some electives and I was done with my degree. This came up because of an academic advisor issue, which I'll never throw shade on him because he worked hard to get me to graduate, and I will always commend him for that. But it was a simple faculty mistake versus my mistake. See, I gotta hold somebody accountable. You know what I'm saying? I gotta hold somebody accountable. I'm just playing. But in case he listens to this, um, but I basically had that, and I was working day in and day out, and don't even get me started on how that made my family feel. Like I said, I'm sorry, mom, sorry, dad, sorry, everybody. That might be a little traumatizing, but it was a part of my mental health journey because at that time I never hit such a low point. I never thought I could hit such a low point to the point that I was really contemplating, I was contemplating everything, even my own existence. Like I didn't eat for like a day or two. I couldn't sleep. I was just in limbo. Um, and to the point that it was just like, I felt like everything that I had worked for was all for nothing and it just got taken away from me. But I forced myself to not dwell on it too much than what it already made me, but it gave me a little bit of more confidence and the strive to actually um resolve this issue. And so with that, I literally went to my active advisor. I went to everybody who I could talk to. I even went to go visit the dean and I did everything in my power to try to get this settled. And then when I talked to my active advisor, he was like, "Don't worry." He didn't say "don't worry" because he was like, "I don't know." He was blatantly honest with me, which I commend him for. Because one thing I will never give somebody is false hope because that's the worst thing to give somebody, especially in that type of situation. He basically was like, "I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't know if we can get this passed because it's never happened in university history, or at least not to his recollection, that that's ever happened." And the thing is, since it was an academic advisor issue, they couldn't just punish me because I'm the type of person that if I would have known that that would have happened, I would have gotten that done. And so, since I took a class that fulfilled that requirement, um, they were able to give me a substitution, and I was able to actually, since I had so many electives, it gave me a substitution to actually, graduate and walk. And I will tell you, once I got that email, I think it was the email he sent me, I cried. Like I cried of happiness. And oh, and don't get me wrong, I cried. I bawled when I got the initial email that I might not have been graduating. I cried. I was broken. I was really I was my heart was broken. Um but because of that, He was able to get that taken care of. But if it wasn't for my persistence and also for my academic advisor's help in terms of dealing it from a faculty side, um, I might have not even graduated my own self. And so that even made graduation really mean something because it almost didn't happen. And for it to happen, that is just like it really put into perspective how much stuff can be taken away from you if you don't have any gratitude towards it or don't um live in the moment. And like that's a time where I'm supposed to be living in the moment. I'm supposed to have my I'm graduating, I'm literally having family come down, I'm a first gen, it's supposed to be an exciting time, but I'm that type of person where it's hard for me to take a victory because I feel like I look forward to the thing that's happening in the future. And it wasn't until that happened that it actually dawned to me and actually like instilled in me to take everything that happens to you as a win because you don't know when something might be taken away from you. And that's where my gratitude really started. Was really, I wouldn't even say started, but was really heightened by, okay, I can't just take things from a life perspective, but take things from a academic perspective because any win is a win in any book to me now. So fast forward to graduation time comes, and that's like the heightened part of life. I basically was around family. My mom almost made me cry because she was crying. But it was definitely a moment that I'll never forget. And I keep a picture of my graduation, pictures that I took with my family, um always as a reminder of something that I worked hard for, and that's something that I want to instill in other people when it comes to graduating. So my advice to seniors, now I hope you're enjoying your fall semester or whatever semester you are in, or even if you're graduating in the winter, I hope that you are taking graduations, you are really basking into it because that is the best thing in the world to feel is that level of accomplishment. No matter what have you done, community, state, university, HBCUs, anything, even online, like just, it's an accomplish, especially for my, for first gen people. Um, so once that happened, I was able to actually enjoy. And after that, it was kind of that's kinda like the conclusion a little bit or like the almost conclusion of my mental health journey. Um, but once I was actually on my own, I was able to really reflect on who I am and who I wanted to be. Um, and it really just gave me this level of clearness that I really always needed. And now I'm literally living the best life that I ever could imagine for myself to be living at this time. Literally, I have this amazing girlfriend who you guys will get to know. She is literally like the anchor for this relationship. As much as she says I am, she's my anchor, and it's just nice to be with somebody who can understand you more than sometimes you can even understand your own self. And for that, I always commend her for all that she does for me because there are things that she doesn't know, like emotionally, that she does for me, that she literally does for me. But in all realness, like she really is the best thing that ever happened to me, and I can't wait for you guys to actually meet her as well. Um, but, other than that, that's kind of my mental health journey. I'm sure there's a lot of other areas that I was kinda leaving out. Um, it's kinda hard to kinda compress all of this into, one time, but this is the best demographically that I can give you. Later episodes, I'll probably be, like, talking more about it when I'm talking to actual people about their mental health journeys. But for this later part of the podcast, I do just want to talk about some tips and takeaways. One thing I will always encourage for people to do is to start just building small and consistent routines. It can be literally the littlest thing. It can be when I wake up in the morning, I look at myself in the mirror for a minute and I just look at myself. Or, you can do like how I did and start with the affirmations, because it's you telling yourself that I am beautiful, I am amazing, I am this, I am that. And it actually does like give you the motivation to go get through, at least get through the day. Because like I said, you're never going to be fully, oh, I don't need to do this anymore, because it should just be a small, consistent routine. Another thing I want to say, that it's okay to take breaks without guilt. If maybe sometimes what you're starting out is a little too intense for you, it's okay to maybe take like a day off, or to be like, you know what, I know I should be doing this, but let me kind of regroup myself today. And then tomorrow I'll try to start it back, because it's never going to be something that's going to be perfect. And that's one thing that I had to stop doing for myself, is trying to make everything so perfect. But once you actually just realize that it's okay to not be okay, and your progress is never going to, be visible right away. It's going to come over time, and it's up to you to kind of keep that consistent for your own mental health sake. And I'm not going to say like it's all just on you, because like I said, if you tell people that you trust 9 out of 10 times, they're going to also be your cheerleader with you. And like I said, it always comes down to the individual themselves. If journaling or writing is one of your favorite things to do, I would invest in getting a journal, or just having something to write your feelings about. Because like I said, that exercise that I did, where I drew a line in the middle, and on the top I said things that I could control, and on the bottom that I couldn't control, that was very beneficial for me to actually see everything that's stressing me out. So yeah, that's another thing that I always will encourage. But at the end of the day, these are just tips that I had to learn, or tips that I did. It's really important to find what really works for you. And the main thing that I will tell you is to just be patient during your journey, because like I said, results are not going to be visible right away, and that's okay. It's okay for things not to happen right away. You're not just going to be one day, oh, I'm totally messed up, to the other day, oh, I'm great. That's the purpose of this amazing journey that we call life. um Something that I would tell somebody who feels stuck right now is to just hang in there, because, like I said, progress is not always visible right away, and it's okay to not be okay. Your journey is going to be different from mine's, and your journey is going to be, sometimes some people may have more intense journeys, some people have less intense journey. That's just a part of life, and life do be lifing. I'm not gonna lie, life do be lifing. But the main start of your progress for your mental health journey is for you to actually start with self-awareness of understanding, like, I'm not okay. And then your second step is to figure out, why am I not okay, and what can I do to get me okay? As long as you keep investing in yourself to get your mental health journey underway, and for that I will always um say to just work at your own pace. um so basically, that's kind of my mental health journey. I'm going to leave you with my encouraging message, as I'm going to try to make a stalemate. Remember, you don't need to have it all figured out right now. Just keep moving forward, one take at a time. Thank you, and I'll see you guys next week. Peace.